members present at the time the vote was taken concurring, sentences you to death by hanging.
Delving into the riveting and controversial story of Joachim Peiper, a figure from World War II whose tale is shrouded in mystery and contradiction to this day. As we navigate the intricacies of Peiper's life, we'll ask the questions that history often overlooks. Was there more to his narrative than the pages of textbooks reveal? What events shaped the man accused of being a catalyst for the infamous Malmedy massacre? Joachim Peiper's story takes an unexpected turn when, on a fateful day in France, he faces a fate almost as controversial as his alleged convictions. A punishment that raised eyebrows and sparked debates. How did it come to this?
Peiper's coming of age coincided with Adolf Hitler's ascension to the chancellorship of Germany when he turned 18. Eager to embrace the nationalist fervor, he volunteered alongside his eldest brother Horst to join the Hitler Youth, Hitlerjugend. Peiper's aspirations leaned toward the Reiter Regiment 4, a cavalry division of the German self-defense forces. Seeking expertise in horsemanship, he heeded the advice of family friend General Walter von Reichenau and enlisted in the 7th SS Reiterstandarte on October 12, 1933. By January 23, 1934, he earned the rank of SS Man. His journey continued as he rose to SS Sturmmann during the 1934 Nuremberg Rally, catching the attention of Heinrich Himmler. Under Himmler's persuasion, Peiper joined the SS Verfügungstruppe in pursuit of an active senior SS officer career. Although he never officially joined the Nazi Party, Peiper's educational path took a turn when he contemplated leaving school before completing his final examinations in 1935. Sent to a camp near Jüterbog, he joined a course for Hitler Youth, SA, and SS members, earning promotion to SS Unterscharführer upon completion. His journey continued at the SS Junkerschule Bad Tölz in Braunschweig in April 1935, under the command of Paul Hauser. Completing his education in January 1936, he attended further training at the Dachau concentration camp in February and March 1936. Taking the SS oath in November 1935, Peiper finished his education at the Junkerschule in January 1936. By April 20, 1936, he was promoted to SS Untersturmführer, joining the Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler under the command of Sepp Dietrich until June 1938. Transitioning to an administrative role on July 4, 1938, came an adjutant to Heinrich Himmler under the command of Karl Wolff. Stationed at Prinz Albrechtstrasse, he worked in Himmler's anteroom within the SS Hauptamt. As a member of the Reichsführer SS staff, Peiper formed close ties with high-ranking SS officers, becoming one of Himmler's favored adjutants. His role expanded, serving on Himmler's personal staff and accompanying him on a state visit to Italy. Before we continue, we would like to thank our sponsor for today's video, NordVPN. Just like how generals strategize to protect vital information during wartime, NordVPN shields your digital presence with military-grade encryption. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, ensuring you're covered on all fronts. Picture this: you navigating the virtual battlefield with the stealth of a covert operative. NordVPN conceals your online maneuvers, keeping your data encrypted and secure from prying eyes, just like classified war plans. But here's the real bombshell. Head to the video description or pinned comment, click my link, or use promo code Historyatwar to enlist with NordVPN. Sign up for the 2-year plan and get 4 extra months. Because in the world of cybersecurity, every month counts. In September 1939, as one of Himmler's adjutants, Peiper witnessed the brutal execution of Poles in Blomberg, leaving Himmler deeply affected, as recounted by Peiper. Post-Poland, he collaborated with Himmler on policies to control the Polish population. In 1940, Peiper joined a combat unit, rising to become a platoon leader in the 11th Company of 1st SS Division Leibstandarte. After seizing a British artillery battery, he earned the Iron Cross and promotion to Hauptsturmführer. Returning to Himmler's staff, Peiper accompanied him on travels, including meeting Franco in Madrid. In February 1941, Himmler briefed Peiper on Operation Barbarossa, Germany's plan to invade the Soviet Union, launching on June 22, 1941. Despite later being transferred to a combat unit, Peiper maintained close contact with Himmler, writing in his diary until mid-September 1941. Official records show Peiper's formal transfer to the LSSAH before October 1941, rejoining it near the Black Sea. Taking command of the 11th Company, he displayed a fierce fighting spirit in Mariupol and Rostov-on-Don, employing aggressive tactics alongside Einsatzgruppe D, even enduring winter operations in Taganrog on the Azov Sea. In May 1942, Peiper learned of his brother Hans Hasso's death, and the LSSAH moved to France for rest and refit. Leaving for France, Peiper met Himmler in June 1942. By July, he returned to his battalion, witnessing the LSAH's transformation into a Panzer Grenadier division. Came the commander of its 3rd Battalion, recruiting like-minded officers. With permission to visit family, he was promoted to SS Obersturmbannführer on January 30th, 1943. Meanwhile, the Eastern Front situation deteriorated, prompting Peiper's battalion to leave France on January 31st, 1943, for Ljubotin near Kharkov, immediately deploying to the front. During the Third Battle of Kharkov, Peiper led the 3rd Battalion of the 2nd Panzer Grenadier Regiment, breaking through Soviet lines to rescue the encircled 320th Infantry Division. Repairing a crucial bridge blocked by a Soviet ski battalion, he secured an exit route for ambulances back to German lines. However, the repaired bridge couldn't support heavy armored vehicles. Peiper ordered his men behind Soviet lines to find an alternative exit, returning with few casualties. The Soviets alleged German atrocities during Peiper's attack. In May 1943, Peiper received the Deutsches Kreuz in gold and developed a nighttime tactic, earning his unit the nickname Blowtorch Battalion. This approach, attacking villages from all sides at full speed, often set buildings ablaze, causing panic among enemy troops. The blowtorch became the unit's symbol, symbolizing relentless advance on the Eastern Front. On March 9, 1943, Peiper was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross for his leadership in battles. His actions in capturing Zygdorovka, Kasatskij Maidan, Jeremijevka, and Leninsky demonstrated his sensible command and personal bravery. The Nazi press hailed Peiper as an outstanding leader, describing him as a born leader with a deep sense of responsibility. Despite his tactical brilliance, the Germans couldn't regain the initiative in the Third Battle of Kharkov. Moving to Operation Citadel, the Battle of Kursk, Peiper's unit distinguished itself in the fighting. The 1st SS was in the thick of it. Heavy battles ensued, but the overall goals were not achieved. On July 17th, the LSSH was withdrawn from the Eastern Front and transferred to the area of Cuneo in northern Italy. Following the Italian surrender to the Allies, the LSSH moved to Italy for 2 months to disarm the Italian military and prevent attacks on German forces. Battalion was stationed near Cuneo from August, receiving orders on September 10th to disarm Italian garrisons in Alessandria and Asti. On September 19th, partisans in Boves captured 2 of Peiper's men. Despite promise that there would be no reprisals, the Germans set fire to houses in the village, resulting in the deaths of 22 men attempting to flee. Claimed his unit did not massacre civilians, stating they were responding to heavy fire from partisans during a rescue mission. The subsequent artillery response triggered the reported fires in the village, justified the action, known as the Boves Massacre, as preventing further casualties from potential Italian attacks. In 1968, an Italian court and a German district court in Stuttgart found insufficient evidence for criminal prosecution, clearing wrongdoing in Italy. In November 1943, Peiper's unit again arrived back on the Eastern Front, engaging in heavy combat in Zhytomyr. On November 20th, Peiper assumed command of the 1st SS Panzer Regiment after Georg Schönberger's death. Leading brutal night assaults against the Red Army, his unit played a crucial role in halting the Soviet offensive, capturing 4 division headquarters and earning him the Oak Leaves of the Knight's Cross. However, his aggressive leadership and command appointment stirred resentment among some. In brutal combat on December 5 and 6, 1943, his unit killed 2,280 Russian soldiers and took only 3 prisoners, which raised questions about the division's brutality. Pekartshina, a village, was incinerated with flamethrowers, and its inhabitants were reportedly all killed. However, it is not clear what exactly happened, since this village was being held by Soviet forces. But it is confirmed innocent lives were lost. On January 20, 1944, Physically and mentally exhausted, he was withdrawn from the front. Hitler presented him with the oak leaves on his 29th birthday, and shortly after, he was promoted to Obersturmbannführer. Following a medical examination, SS doctors in Dachau recommended rest, prompting him to visit his wife in Bavaria. Originally stationed in Belgium, the division underwent a significant relocation to Normandy in response to the Allies' landing. However, this movement was marked by adversities, including disruptions caused by Allied air attacks and the logistical complexity of simultaneously transporting Hungarian Jews to concentration camps. These challenges contributed to delays in reaching the designated rally zone, with the entire division not achieving this until July 6, 1944. As events unfolded, the LSSAH assumed a prominent role in the Battle of the Bulge, notably in Operation Wacht am Rhein. The LSSAH faced a multifaceted set of obstacles, ranging from challenging terrains to logistical intricacies, including a shortage of essential fuel supplies. Peiper's assigned route featured narrow, challenging roads, compounding the division's logistical woes. The progress of the LSSAH was hampered early on when it encountered American forces near Lanzerath, resulting in a substantial delay. Despite setbacks, Peiper pressed on, launching an attack on Hansfeld on December 17th. While this offensive secured crucial fuel resources, it deviated from the original strategic plan. The LSAH gained notoriety during this period due to the tragic incident known as the Malmedy Massacre. The exact number of casualties is uncertain, but it is estimated that around 84 American soldiers were murdered in the massacre. Later on, the Challenges unit persisted, with logistical hurdles, destroyed bridges, and relentless Allied air attacks impeding their advance. Eventually, facing a dire situation, Peiper made the difficult decision to abandon the division's vehicles. Leading his men through challenging terrain and adverse weather conditions, including deep snow and freezing temperatures, orchestrated an escape on foot to reach the safety of German lines. This arduous journey lasted 36 hours, resulting in the successful evacuation of 770 men out of the initial 800. In January 1945, swords were added to Peiper's Knight's Cross, proposed by Wilhelm Mohnke. Peiper's fame as a Waffen-SS commander grew during the Battle of the Bulge. By the end of January 1945, Peiper was in the Berlin area. On February 4th, he met Heinrich Himmler for the last time before attending the Panzer Grenadier School in Kranice until February 14th. He then joined his unit in the southwest of Farnad, participating in the failed Operation Frühlingserwachen, which resulted in significant casualties. On May 1st, as LSSAH units retreated into Austria, they learned of Hitler's death. A few days later, all SS units were ordered to retreat westward. On May 8th, the LSSAH received orders to cross the Enns River and surrender to American troops. Attempting to escape captivity with Paul Gueule, Peiper was captured near Schliersee on May 28th, less than 30 kilometers from his home. He was interned in the Dachau concentration camp. Despite being actively sought by American forces for his alleged involvement in the Malmedy Massacre, Peiper's identity was not confirmed until August 21, 1945, a day after he was transferred to the interrogation camp of the 3rd U.S. Army in Freising.
Following the surrender of German armies, certain war crimes during the Battle of the Bulge were linked to Kampfgruppe Peiper, prompting American investigative teams to scour POW camps in search of its members. Peiper found himself incarcerated in Freising, Upper Bavaria, where he faced initial rounds of interrogation. It became apparent that the SS men, though seasoned soldiers, were not well equipped to withstand intense questioning. Some readily shared the sought-after information, while others succumbed after enduring various forms of torture, ranging from beatings and threats to mock executions. Peiper assumed command responsibility for the actions of his subordinates. In December 1945, Peiper was moved to the prison in Schwäbisch Hall, where around 1,000 former members of the Leibstandarte had gathered. Reports suggested that the interrogations involved simulated trials, along with both physical and psychological torture. Peiper and others attested to repeated beatings and threats, including the ominous prospect of their families being handed over to the Russians. On April 16, 1946, approximately 300 prisoners were relocated from Schwäbisch Hall to Dachau, where they faced trial. The trial unfolded at Dachau from May 16th to July 16th, 1946, conducted by a military tribunal comprised of senior American officers, adhering to the rules established by the Nuremberg International Military Tribunal. Among the 74 defendants were notable figures such as SS Oberstgruppenführer Sepp Dietrich, commanding general of the 6th SS Panzer Army, his chief of staff SS Brigadeführer Fritz Kremer, SS Gruppenführer Hermann Priess, commander of the ISS Panzer Corps, and Joachim Peiper, the commander of the 1st SS Panzer Regiment, the unit implicated in the crimes. Before the trial commenced, occupation authorities reclassified the defendants from prisoners of war to civilian internees. The accusations rested primarily on sworn and written statements provided by the defendants during their time in Schwäbisch Hall, in an attempt to challenge the evidence presented through the defendants' statements and by prosecution witnesses. The lead defense attorney, Lieutenant Colonel Willis M. Everett, sought to demonstrate that the statements had been obtained through inappropriate methods. During the trial, Lieutenant Colonel Hal McCown was called by Everett to testify regarding him and his troops' treatment of American prisoners at La Glaise. Despite being captured by him at La Glaise himself, McCown testified that wounded American soldiers in his custody received equal priority with German wounded when it came to medical treatment. I can state that at no time were the prisoners of this organization mistreated. Food was scarce, but it was nearly as good as that used by the Germans themselves. The American prisoners were always given cellar space to protect them from the exceedingly heavy American artillery barrages. I was taken for a brief period to the main prisoner enclosure, which was a large, two-room, well-constructed cellar, quite superior to any I saw in La Glaise. The men were considerably overcrowded and were allowing the guards to bully them a little. I organized the entire group of some 130 into sections, appointed a first sergeant and laid down a few rules and got the German warrant officer in charge of the prisoners settled upon a fairer method of giving. He attested that throughout the occupation of the town, he consistently behaved in a professional and honorable manner. Initially planning to have only him testify, Everett's decision was challenged by other defendants, supported by their German lawyers, who also wished to testify. This decision would later prove to be a significant mistake, as during cross-examination by the prosecution, the defendants reportedly turned on each other, behaving like a bunch of drowning rats. According to Everett, these testimonies provided enough grounds for the court to sentence several defendants to death. His testimony about the murder of POWs under Kampfgruppe's control did not convince the military court. Multiple witnesses during the trial testified to at least 2 instances where he had allegedly ordered the murder of prisoners of war. When questioned by the prosecution, he denied these allegations, claiming that they were obtained from witnesses under torture. Regarding the murder of Belgian civilians, he asserted that they were partisans. Despite the court's inability to conclusively prove his direct involvement in the murders, he nonetheless accepted responsibility for the actions of his men. In the absence of concrete evidence, the prosecution relied on testimonies obtained through questionable means, including torture that would alarm even the NKVD. Colonel Willis M. Everett, the defense attorney, vehemently challenged the validity of statements extracted under torture, arguing that they led to the sentencing of 43 defendants to death. Peiper, despite the lack of evidence, assumed command responsibility for his men's actions. A commission formed in response to Everett's allegations uncovered shocking revelations. Witnesses and defendants had endured brutal torture, including solitary confinement, prolonged starvation, burns, beatings, broken bones, and genital mutilation. Judge Edward Van Roden reported that only 2 out of 139 cases did not result in irreparable damage to the testicles, and such conduct was deemed standard among American interrogators. Despite these disturbing findings, the commission recommended commuting life sentences to imprisonment and refrained from officially confirming Everett's torture claims. The debacle prompted the intervention of the U.S. Senate, particularly the Senate Committee on Armed Services, which dispatched a 3-man subcommittee to Germany. Senators Raymond Baldwin and Lester Hunt staunchly defended the army and trial prosecution, while Estes Kefauver, the third member, attended only 2 of the 15 hearings. Unsurprisingly, the subcommittee rejected all accusations of torture. The U.S. Senate upheld the validity of the Malmedy trial, acknowledging improper pre-trial investigations. The 12 death sentences were not carried out before the controversy, but were commuted to life imprisonment. None were dropped. The life sentence was eventually reduced first to 35 years and then to time served. After over 11 years in prison, he became the last of the Malmedy defenders to be released. Regrettably, the torture associated with the Malmedy massacre trials was never officially acknowledged. Peiper managed to avoid execution, not due to any strategic brilliance on his part, but rather because the prosecution's case imploded. They neglected to delve into the murky depths of the Eastern Front, where they might have stumbled upon damning evidence. Instead, faced with insufficient proof from the West, they resorted to brutal torture in a desperate attempt to fill the gaps. The trial itself was a chaotic mess, so much so that even the Senate subcommission couldn't completely sweep it under the rug. They only succeeded in concealing the most disgraceful aspects. The public outcry, both in Germany and the United States, echoed among civilians and military circles alike. The uproar became so deafening that the prosecution, under pressure, had to abandon the Senate subcommission's feeble attempt at a cover-up, which was widely recognized for what it was. Peiper's impending execution, initially handed down without much scrutiny, became a topic of widespread attention. The increasing public awareness and scrutiny rendered execution an untenable option. Today, Peiper is widely recognized on various prominent websites and historical pages, primarily as the commander allegedly responsible for the Malmedy massacre. However, it's crucial to note that there exists no concrete evidence to substantiate these claims. Yet, this absence of proof doesn't absolve him entirely of guilt. The Eastern Front, with its share of unforeseen events, witnessed the brutality of his unit in combat, resulting in civilian casualties. The question of culpability for the tragic fate of the American soldiers remains shrouded in uncertainty. Perhaps we will never find out what truly happened to those poor souls. On January 17, 1957, he commenced his role at Porsche in Stuttgart within its technical division. His responsibilities expanded to representing the company at various car exhibitions. Subsequently, he assumed a key role in overseeing auto exports to the United States. However, due to his wartime criminal conviction, securing a visa for travel to the United States became an insurmountable obstacle, leading to the relinquishment of his newfound position. As he climbed the ranks at Porsche, allegations surrounding his involvement in the Boves massacre in Italy during World War II emerged from Italian union workers. Ferry Porsche personally stepped in, offering him a senior management position. Unfortunately, trade unions objected vehemently, citing concerns about individuals convicted of war crimes holding high-ranking roles within the company. The strong opposition to him, coupled with his association with Ferry Porsche, had a detrimental impact on sales in Porsche's largest market, the United States, forcing the management to terminate his employment. He responded by filing a lawsuit against Porsche on December 30, 1960, seeking fulfillment of the promised position. In court, Peiper's attorney vehemently denied his client's war criminal status, contending that the Allied trials were a means to defame the German people. He asserted that the Nuremberg and Malmedy massacre trials were mere propaganda, citing documents from the anti-communist historian Frieda Uttli that claimed the Malmedy massacre trial defendants had been subjected to torture by the Americans. Eventually, at the court's behest, Porsche reached an agreement to terminate the employment contract, with him receiving 6 months' wages as compensation. The SS Veterans magazine, Der Freiwillige, seized on the development, portraying him as unjustly sentenced for war crimes. Subsequently, he transitioned into a role as a car sales trainer, leveraging his network of former SS members. In this capacity, he reached out to Max Moritz, a former SS mechanic who had become an authorized Volkswagen dealer for Germany. In the early 1960s, a shift in public perception of Nazi crimes began to unfold. The economic resurgence in Germany made it difficult for former SS men, like him, to remain hidden, especially when occupying prominent positions raised uncomfortable questions. The Eichmann and Auschwitz trials in the mid-60s, gaining widespread attention in West Germany, cast a new light on this era, with the prosecution now initiated by West German authorities rather than the Allies. However, the extension of the statute of limitations for Nazi crimes prosecution left those involved uneasy. On June 23, 1964, Peiper faced accusations related to the Boves massacre, filed by 2 Italians at the Central Office of the State Justice Administration for the Investigation of National Socialist Crimes in Ludwigsburg. Represented by Robert W. Kempner, a Nuremberg trial prosecutor, the case alleged Peiper's involvement in arresting and deporting Jews in northern Italy. Despite support from Simon Wiesenthal, no evidence was presented and the case was dismissed in 1967. Later appeared as a witness in the Werner Best trial, acknowledging his close contact with Himmler, but evading direct implications in Nazi crimes by citing memory failure. By 1969, he worked as a freelance collaborator for the magazine Auto, Motor und Sport. He relocated to Treves in Haute-Saône, France, becoming a self-employed translator under the alias Rainer Buschmann, translating military history books from English to German for the editor Stuttgarter Motorbuch Verlag. Since settling in France in 1972, Peiper maintained a low profile, leading a quiet and unobtrusive life while still using his given name. However, his anonymity was shattered in 1974 when a former communist resistance member of the region, driven by political motives, reported Peiper to the French Communist Party. The revelation gained momentum in 1976 when a communist historian, delving into Gestapo archives, stumbled upon his files. On June 21st, tracts denouncing his presence were distributed in Treves, and a day later, an article in the communist publication L'Humanité exposed his residency in Treves, triggering a wave of death threats against him. His village faced daily acts of vandalism, and in the midst of this turmoil, his German neighbor offered him a 12-gauge shotgun upon hearing about the growing threats. The once tranquil life he had built in France was abruptly disrupted by the resurgence of public awareness about his past, bringing with it the looming threat of violence and death. Faced with death threats, Peiper took decisive action to protect his family, sending them back to Germany while he remained in Treves. The ominous turn of events culminated on the night of July 13th to 14th, 1976, when Peiper's residence in Treves came under a targeted attack. Assailants allegedly besieged his residence, sparking a violent clash that resonated with gunfire. Armed with both a .22 rifle and a pistol, he defiantly defended his ground. The situation escalated when the assailants resorted to hurling Molotov cocktails at the house, igniting a fierce blaze. A French newspaper reported he killed 1 attacker. Reports indicate that, undeterred, positioned himself on an upper floor, firing from a window. In the aftermath, his charred remains were found. An autopsy revealed traces of smoke in his lungs. He met his demise around 1 a.m., having faced the onslaught head-on. Notably, he foresaw the threat and, cognizant of the danger, took measures to ensure his family's safety, urging them to leave. Despite the passage of time, the perpetrators, suspected to be French communists, are known as the Avengers. Nobody has ever been caught for his murder, nor was there a proper investigation. The fate of his dogs remains shrouded in uncertainty. Conflicting accounts suggest they may have suffered injuries, while others contend that they perished alongside their owner. Regrettably, a definitive source verifying their fate proves elusive. Things took a bizarre turn in the aftermath. Following his demise, French newspapers initially reported a perplexing account. The police believed he had managed to escape. The assailant's lifeless body was unceremoniously pulled into the house, and Peiper, in an eerie twist, ignited the very structure. Weeks later, the French media, in a puzzling twist, quoted the words, Now that many believe Mr. Peiper was killed, the communists are denouncing the killing and disclaiming responsibility for it. The lingering question persisted. Did the communists genuinely end his life? Or were they merely weaving a narrative in the intricate of deception? Peiper is buried with his wife Sigurd, who died at age 67 in 1979, and his brothers Horst and Hasso in the village cemetery of Schöndorf am Ammersee, Bavaria. Kirk Bissat from Canada visited his house in France in 2016, and the ruins are still there to this day. And there you have it, the complete story of Joachim Peiper, spanning from his life during World War II to his eventual conviction and demise. A truly captivating figure. They say one lives by the sword and dies by the sword. We hope you've gained new insights and enjoyed this video. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your opinions. Be sure to explore our Patreon and follow us on social media. As always, we have been History at War, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Goodbye for now.